March 7th, 1945. 13:42 hours. Stadtwald Forest, 2 kilometers east of the Ludendorff Bridge at Remagen, Germany. Staff Sergeant Daniel Chen crouches inside an M4A3E8 Sherman turret, eye pressed against a makeshift periscope he's constructed from 3 salvaged mirror fragments, copper wire, and a length of steel tubing scavenged from a destroyed Panzerfaust launcher. The contraption extends from the turret's left side, angled 45 degrees downward and backward, covering the exact blind spot that's killed more Sherman crews than German guns. Outside, the forest is silent. Too silent. Bare trees, snow patches, and fog thick enough to taste. Metallic, cold, carrying the smell of burned cordite from yesterday's fighting. His tank is hull down behind a ridge, main gun pointed northeast toward the approach to the bridge. Engine idling at 900 RPM, crew breathing shallow. Through his jury-rigged mirror system, Chen can see what shouldn't be visible. The dead ground behind and below his tank's left quarter. The exact approach angle German Panzerschreck teams use. The killing zone where 3 other Shermans died this morning because their commanders couldn't see the threat until it was too late. 4 Panther tanks are moving through the fog 800 meters to his front, visible through the primary gun sight, standard engagement. But Chen isn't watching the Panthers, he's watching his mirrors. Because 15 minutes ago, his loader spotted German infantry infiltrating through the forest to their south and then lost them in the terrain. They're out there. Somewhere. Moving through the blind spots that exist in every tank ever built. The spaces where vision fails. Where geometry creates zones of invisibility. Where men die because they can't see what's killing them. Chen's makeshift mirror system violates 3 technical orders. His battalion commander called it dangerous distraction from primary gunnery responsibilities. His fellow tank commanders called it paranoid bullshit. Command denied his request to officially install it. Twice. But Chen built it anyway, because he understands something about warfare that no manual teaches. The threat you can't see kills you faster than the one you can. In 47 seconds, his mirrors will show him something impossible. And his response will change American armor doctrine for the next 30 years. The wire holding his primary mirror is already starting to loosen from vibration. Daniel Chen was born in 1921 in San Francisco's Chinatown. His father operated an optical shop on Grant Avenue, grinding lenses, fitting eyeglasses, repairing microscopes for the University of California's biology department. The shop was tiny, narrow as a corridor, but the back room contained precision equipment worth thousands, lens grinders, optical benches, calibration tools. Danny grew up in that back room. While other kids played stickball, he learned to calculate focal lengths, to understand refraction, to diagnose why a microscope's image wouldn't resolve properly, misaligned mirrors usually, or accumulated dust on the optical path. His obsession was vision, how light travels, how it bends, how mirrors and lenses extend what the human eye can see beyond its natural limits. He built his first telescope at age 12, a crude Newtonian reflector with mirrors ground from broken pocket watches. It worked, barely, but it showed him Jupiter's moons, and that was enough. By 1940, he was attending UC Berkeley on scholarship, studying optical engineering. His senior thesis was titled Practical Applications of Periscopic Vision in Confined Spaces. Naval architecture mostly, submarine periscopes, ship lookout systems. The Navy recruiter who read it offered him immediate commission as an ensign in optical engineering. Then Pearl Harbor happened. Danny tried to enlist. Navy, Army, Marines. Everyone rejected him. Not because of his education, not because of fitness, because he was Chinese. Security concerns, they said. The official term was enemy alien ancestry. Never mind that his family had been in California since 1882, that his father was born in Sacramento, that Danny had never been to China. He spent 1942 working in his father's shop, grinding lenses for gun sights, feeling useless while his white classmates went to war. In 1943, the policy changed. Manpower needs outweighed prejudice. Chinese Americans could serve, in segregated units at first, then gradually integrated. Danny enlisted immediately. army. They didn't want optical engineers. They needed tank crews, Fort Knox, tank training. He scored top marks in gunnery. But what caught his instructor's attention was how he identified a blind spot in the M4 Sherman's vision system during a training exercise. He'd calculated it mathematically, the geometry of the periscopes, the angles they covered, the dead zones they created. Then he demonstrated it physically by having another soldier approach his tank from the exact angle where no vision device could see him. That's a known limitation, soldier. Every tank has blind spots. Yes, sir. But we could fix it. How? Additional mirrors, angled to cover the dead zones. The turret's already cramped. There's no room. There's always room for mirrors, sir. They don't take up space. They extend it. The instructor didn't understand, didn't approve, filed it as interesting but impractical. Danny went to Europe with the 9th Armoured Division in October 1944. Fought through the Siegfried Line, saw tanks burn, learned that blind spots weren't theoretical problems. They were measured in dead friends. And he decided, if the army wouldn't fix it, he would. March 1945. The war is ending. Everyone knows it. Germany is collapsing. But collapse makes animals dangerous, and the Wehrmacht is fighting with the desperation of the cornered. The Ludendorff Bridge at Remagen was captured intact on March 7th, the first Allied crossing of the Rhine. It's a strategic miracle. A bridge that should have been destroyed is standing, and American armor is pouring across, establishing a bridgehead on the east bank. But the Germans are counter-attacking, not with armies, those are shattered, but with everything that can still move. Tiger tanks pulled from training units, Panther tanks from depot maintenance, Volksgrenadiers with Panzerfaust anti-tank rockets, improvised Kampfgruppen assembled from remnants. Their mission: destroy the bridge or die trying. The tactical problem is terrain. The approach to Remagen from the east is forest and rolling hills, perfect ambush country. American armor advancing to expand the bridgehead is vulnerable. The Germans know this. They're using classic defense in depth. Let American tanks advance into kill zones, hit them from multiple angles, withdraw before artillery can respond. And they're exploiting Sherman weaknesses, specifically vision limitations. The M4A3E8 Sherman, the EZ8 latest model, has superior optics compared to earlier Shermans. The commander gets an M10 periscope with 6 prisms giving 360-degree coverage. The gunner gets an M71D telescopic sight. The loader and driver get their own periscopes. Comprehensive, overlapping, state-of-the-art for 1945. Also inadequate, because geometry is unforgiving. Each periscope has a limited field of view, roughly 60 degrees. They're positioned to overlap, creating theoretical 360-degree coverage. But coverage assumes you're looking in the right direction. And the overlaps create dead zones, angles where vision from one periscope ends and the next hasn't started yet. The dead zone that matters most, low and to the rear quarters. The approach angle for infantry with magnetic mines or Panzerfaust rockets. The geometry is simple. The commander's periscope is mounted high for visibility, but can't look down steeply. The turret itself blocks low rear angles. An enemy approaching from 30-45 degrees off the rear quarter, staying low, can get within 10 meters without being visible through any periscope. This is known, accepted. The solution is, stay alert, keep moving, have infantry support, don't let the enemy get close. Except in forest fighting, staying alert isn't enough. The trees create visual barriers. Movement is restricted by terrain. Infantry support gets separated. And German Panzerfaust teams are trained specifically to exploit Sherman blind spots. They've been doing it since Normandy. 9th Armoured Division lost 6 Shermans in 2 days around Remagen, all to close-range attacks from angles the crews didn't see until impact. Magnetic mines on rear hull, Panzerfaust shots into the engine deck. One tank was hit from 8 meters away. The crew never saw the shooter. The battalion commander's solution: maintain better situational awareness. Button up in combat. Use infantry screening. Technical solution. None authorized. The tank's vision system is as designed. No modifications permitted. But here's what the commander doesn't understand. Situational awareness requires information. You can't be aware of what you can't see. And the Sherman's blind spots aren't failings of attention, they're failures of geometry. Danny Chen understands this, has understood it since Fort Knox, and after watching friends burn in tanks that were killed from angles they couldn't see, he decides doctrine is insufficient. He's going to solve the geometry problem, manually, without authorization. February 28, 1945, evening, 9th Armored Division Maintenance Area, west bank of the Rhine. Danny is scavenging. His tank, Tactical Number 23, nicknamed Calculus by his crew because of Danny's obsession with angles, needs the mirrors he doesn't have. He finds them in wreckage. A destroyed German staff car yields 2 intact rearview mirrors. A bombed outhouse provides mirror fragments from a shattered vanity. A field hospital has a surgical mirror. Small, high quality, perfect optical clarity. He needs mounting hardware. Finds copper wire from field telephone spools. Steel tubing from a destroyed Panzerfaust. The launcher tube is perfect, rigid, lightweight, hollow. He can run it along the turret exterior, mount mirrors at intervals, create a periscope system that covers the blind spots. His loader, PFC James Rodriguez, age 20, from Albuquerque, former auto mechanic, watches him work. "Sarge, what the fuck are you building?" "Vision extension. Extra mirrors covering our dead zones." The commander said. "The commander's not the one who burns when we get hit from an angle we can't see." "It's gonna add weight. Might throw off turret traverse. 3 pounds total. Negligible. It's gonna look insane. Don't care how it looks. Care if it works." Rodriguez considers this, nods. "What do you need?" They work through the night. Danny calculates angles using a protractor and notebook. The primary blind spot is low rear left. The commander's periscope can't see below 20 degrees elevation, and the turret blocks everything below the gun. He needs a mirror positioned outside the turret, angled down and back, feeding the image to an eyepiece mounted inside where he can see it while standing in the commander's hatch. The engineering is crude but functional. 3 mirrors in series. Primary mirror mounted on steel tube extending from turret left side, angled 45 degrees down and back. Secondary mirror halfway up the tube, reflecting the image forward. Tertiary mirror inside the turret, feeding to an eyepiece scavenged from binoculars. The optical path is maybe 70% efficient. Lots of light loss. Image is dim and slightly distorted, but it works. Looking through the eyepiece, Danny can see the ground 10 meters behind and below his tank's left quarter. The blind spot is visible. He installs a second mirror system on the right side. Different angle, covering the rear right quarter where the turret overhang creates another blind spot. This one's simpler. Single mirror on an articulated arm, viewable by leaning forward in the hatch. The installation takes 6 hours. When dawn comes, Calculus looks like a tank that's been modified by a mechanic having a nervous breakdown. Mirrors jutting at odd angles, wire and tubing lashed to the turret, the whole contraption vibrating whenever the engine runs. Danny's tank commander, Lieutenant Carl Brenner, 23, from Ohio, former history teacher, climbs onto the tank, stares at the modification and says, "Chen, what the actual fuck is this?" "Vision enhancement, sir. Covers our rear blind spots. It looks like a carnival attraction. It works." "You installed this without authorization?" "Yes, sir." "You know I have to report this?" "Yes, sir." Brenner stares at the mirror system, tests one of the eyepieces, sees the ground behind the tank, clearly visible, perfectly positioned. His expression shifts from anger to consideration. "Can you remove it quickly if ordered?" "5 minutes, sir. Just wire and clips." "And you're confident it won't interfere with turret operation?" "I've tested the traverse. No interference. Weight's negligible." Brenner climbs down, thinks, "Keep it for now. But if the battalion commander sees it, I'm telling him it was your idea and I ordered you to remove it." "Understood, sir." "And Chen? It better fucking work." "It will work. Danny knows it will. Because he's solved the geometry, extended vision into the blind spots, given himself information that other tank commanders don't have. But here's what he doesn't know. Information is only useful if you act on it fast enough, and the reaction time between seeing a threat in a dim, vibrating mirror and responding effectively is shorter than he realizes. He's about to learn that lesson at 1,000 meters per second, the velocity of a Panzerfaust warhead. March 7th, 1945, 13:43 hours, Stadtwald Forest. Danny is watching two things simultaneously: the 4 Panther tanks visible through his primary gun sight, and the makeshift mirror showing his rear left blind spot. The Panthers are moving slowly through the fog. 800 meters, standard engagement range. His gunner, Corporal Mike Sullivan, 24, from Boston, former machinist, has the primary gun laid on the lead Panther. Target acquired, range 800. Hold fire, Danny orders. They don't know we're here. This is the advantage of hull-down positioning. Calculus is behind a ridge, only the turret visible, presenting minimal profile. The Germans are moving through open forest, exposed, looking for American armor they expect to be advancing. They're not expecting a stationary tank watching them through mirrors. But Danny's not focused on the Panthers. He's focused on the mirror showing his blind spot. Because 15 minutes ago, Rodriguez spotted German infantry, maybe a dozen men, moving through the forest to their south. They disappeared into terrain folds, haven't been seen since. They're flanking. Danny knows it. Standard tactic: pin the American tanks with armor from the front, hit them with infantry from behind. The Panthers are bait. The real threat is the infantry. He can't. Movement in the mirror, barely visible. A shape, low, moving between trees. Danny's eye locks on it. Man-sized. Grey uniform, carrying something tube-shaped. Panzerfaust. 40 meters behind and left of the tank. Contact rear. Infantry with rockets. Sullivan's still focused on the Panthers. Rodriguez starts to traverse the turret. Wrong response. That just exposes more of the tank's hull. Lieutenant Brenner reaches for the .50 caliber machine gun mounted on the turret. Won't swivel far enough to hit a target behind them. Danny makes the calculation in 1 second. Can't hit the infantry with the main gun. Wrong angle. Can't hit them with the .50 cal. Insufficient traverse. Only option is to move the tank, present the bow machine gun, let the driver, PFC Thomas Wright, from Oregon, engage. Right, back us up. Hard right now. The Sherman lurches backward. The Ford GAA engine roars. Tracks bite frozen ground. The tank pivots right, spinning on one track, exposing the bow. Through his mirror, Danny sees the German soldier raise the Panzerfaust, aim. Wright opens up with the bow machine gun. 30 caliber tracers. The German goes down. The Panzerfaust fires wild. The shaped charge warhead streaks past the turret, missing by 3 meters, detonates against a tree. But there are more of them. Danny counts 6 German infantry emerging from the forest, all carrying Panzerfaust launchers. Coordinated attack on his blind spot, exactly the threat the mirrors were designed to detect. Multiple contacts. Rear sector. Sullivan traverses the turret left, main gun swinging to cover the infantry. But the 76mm gun is overkill for infantry targets and too slow. By the time he's laid on target, they'll have fired. Danny does something that violates every doctrine manual. He orders the tank to reverse course while the turret is traversing, creating a moving engagement against infantry targets at close range while Panthers are visible to the front. Chaos. The tank is moving backward and sideways. The turret is rotating. Wright is firing the bow gun. Rodriguez is loading canister rounds. Anti-infantry ammunition turns the main gun into a giant shotgun. Sullivan is trying to aim while everything's in motion, and Danny is watching his mirrors, calling targets. 2 more. Right side, behind the birch. 1 crawling under that log. 10 o'clock. The main gun fires, canister round. The infantry positions erupt in steel balls and shredded vegetation. 3 Germans go down. A Panzerfaust fires. The warhead hits, but glances off the turret's angled armor. Wrong angle. No penetration. The shaped charge detonates on the exterior, scoring the paint. doing no damage. Wright's bowgun cuts down 2 more infantry. The survivors are running, retreating into the forest. The ambush has failed. And through all of this, 30 seconds of chaos, the Panthers haven't moved. They're still sitting at 800 meters, visible through the fog, apparently unaware that anything's happened. Because here's what the mirrors did. They let Danny detect and defeat the infantry ambush without ever exposing his tank's profile to the Panthers. The German armor thinks calculus is still hull down, stationary, undetected. They don't know the Sherman just killed 6 of their infantry support. Danny takes 2 seconds, breathes, checks his mirrors, no more infantry visible, checks the primary sight, Panthers still stationary. Sullivan, primary target, lead Panther, range 800, laid on, fire. The 76mm gun roars. The armor-piercing round crosses 800 meters in 1.2 seconds, hits the lead Panther's front glacis, deflects, no penetration, wrong angle, but it gets their attention. The Panthers start moving, traversing turrets, looking for the threat. Reload, same target, hit the flank. Danny orders Wright to move the tank forward, exposing more of the hull, getting an angle on the Panthers' side armor. It's dangerous. More of his tank is visible now, but the Panthers are still looking for him in the wrong place. They think he's where he was 15 seconds ago. They haven't adjusted. Sullivan fires. The second round hits the Panthers' right side, below the turret. Penetrates. The tank doesn't brew up. No ammunition detonation. But it stops moving. Crew bails out. The other Panthers have located him now. Their guns are traversing. 88mm main guns, far superior to his 76mm. If they fire first, calculus dies. Back us up! Hull down now! Wright reverses. The tank drops behind the ridge. Just the turret visible. Minimal profile. One Panther fires. The 88mm round passes over the turret, close enough that Danny hears it scream by. Too close. His hands are shaking. But here's the advantage he has. He can see his blind spots. The other Panthers can't. And that means they don't know about the second German infantry team moving through the forest to flank them from the south. Danny spots them in his right side mirror. 8 men. More Panzerfausts. They're trying the same ambush. Approach from the blind spot. Hit the American tank before it can respond. Except this time, Danny sees them when they're still 60 meters away. He doesn't call it out on radio. That would alert the Panthers. He just quietly directs Wright to reverse again. Adjust angle. Bring the bow gun to bear. Sullivan loads another canister round. Rodriguez mans the turret machine gun. They let the German infantry close to 30 meters. Then they open up. Canister from the main gun, 30 caliber from the bow gun, and cokes. The German infantry doesn't have time to fire. They're caught in the open, cut down in seconds. The Panthers see this happen. See their infantry support get slaughtered. See the American Sherman maneuvering with a precision that shouldn't be possible, eliminating threats from angles they can't even observe. The second Panther tries to advance, gets its flank exposed. Sullivan puts a round through the side. Penetrates. This one brews up. Ammunition cooks off. Turret lifts on a column of flame and smoke. The remaining 2 Panthers start reversing. They're retreating. Not because they're outgunned. Their 88mm guns are superior to Danny's 76mm. But because they're blind. They can't see their own flanks. Can't protect their infantry. Can't understand how a single Sherman is defeating combined arms tactics that should be overwhelming. They retreat into the fog. Gone. The forest is silent. Burning Panther tanks. Dead German infantry. One Sherman, unscratched, sitting hull down with mirrors jutting at odd angles from its turret. Danny's crew is breathing hard. Rodriguez says, "What the fuck just happened?" Danny is staring at his mirrors. The wire on the primary mirror finally broke. One of the supports came loose from vibration. The image is tilted now, barely usable, but it held long enough. "We saw them before they saw us." That's what happened. Lieutenant Brenner, who hasn't said a word during the entire engagement, climbs out of the turret, looks at the burning Panthers, looks at the dead infantry, looks at Danny's improvised mirror system. Chen, that's the most insane thing I've ever seen work. Danny doesn't respond, just starts repairing the mirror mounting. Wire's broken, needs to be replaced. Next engagement won't wait. They don't know it yet, but this engagement is being watched. A forward artillery observer, positioned in the forest canopy 400 meters to the north, has seen everything through binoculars. He's already on the radio to battalion headquarters, describing a single Sherman defeating 4 Panthers and multiple infantry teams through some kind of modified vision system. The report reaches the battalion commander, Lieutenant Colonel Harold Morrison, within 10 minutes. Morrison's response: "Bring that tank crew to HQ. I want to see this mirror setup and find out who authorized the modification." Nobody authorized it. That's about to become a problem. Excerpt from 9th Panzer Division. Tactical Report, 8 March 1945. 7 March engagement near Remagen resulted in loss of 4 Panther tanks and 16 infantrymen from Kampfgruppe Schmidt. Survivors report engagement with single American M4 Sherman demonstrating unprecedented situational awareness. Obergefreiter Hans Keller, survivor, 2nd Panther testimony. The American tank detected our infantry support before our own crews did. It maneuvered to eliminate infantry threats while maintaining defensive position against our armor. This shouldn't be possible. American Sherman commanders cannot see their rear sectors while engaging forward targets. Yet this crew responded to threats from multiple angles simultaneously. We believe the Americans had multiple tanks in coordinated positions. Only after withdrawal did we confirm single tank, somehow detecting approaches from blind sectors. Possibly radio coordination with infantry observers, but no American infantry observed in sector. Assessment: either new American tank variant with improved vision systems or exceptional crew with non-standard tactics. Recommend extreme caution when engaging American armor near Remagen. Their capabilities exceed standard Sherman performance parameters. The report reaches German intelligence 3 days later. By then, the Remagen bridgehead is 10 kilometers deep and expanding. The Wehrmacht is collapsing. The report is filed, marked operational intelligence, and forgotten. But the fear persists. Among the panzer crews still fighting around Remagen, word spreads. There's an American tank that can see everywhere. That knows you're coming before you see it. That kills infantry support first, then picks off armor when it's isolated. They start calling it Geister tank, ghost tank. Not because it's invisible, but because it seems to see ghosts, seems to know what's in the blind spots. One surviving panzer commander, Lieutenant Ernst Weber, captured on March 12th, is interrogated by American intelligence. When asked about the engagement on March 7th, he says, "Your tank should not have won. The geometry was in our favor. Our infantry was positioned correctly. Your commander could not have seen them, not through standard periscopes. The angles are wrong, the mathematics don't work. But he saw them anyway. He saw everything. How?" The interrogator has no answer. Neither does anyone else. Because Danny's mirror system isn't in any intelligence report, isn't in any technical manual. It's just 3 mirrors and some wire, invisible in after-action reports, known only to the crew that survived because of it. The Germans never understand what they faced. They just know American armor at Remagen was different, more aware, more dangerous, and they don't know that the difference was one man who understood geometry better than doctrine and had the nerve to modify his tank without asking permission. March 8th, 1945. 0900 hours. Battalion HQ. Danny stands at attention in front of Lieutenant Colonel Morrison's desk. His mirror system, removed from calculus, lies disassembled on the desk. Copper wire, steel tubing, mirror fragments. Looks like junk. Morrison stares at it, then at Danny. "Sergeant Chen, this is the modification you installed without authorization." "Yes, sir." "You understand that unauthorized modification of army equipment is a court-martial offense?" "Yes, sir." "And you did it anyway?" "Yes, sir." Morrison picks up one of the mirrors, examines it. "Explain what this does," Danny explains. "The geometry of blind spots. The angles that standard periscopes can't cover. The infantry threat that killed 6 Shermans in 2 days. The solution? Additional mirrors, positioned to extend vision into dead zones. Morrison listens, asks technical questions. How do you compensate for image distortion? What's the light transmission efficiency? How do you maintain alignment under vibration? Danny answers each question precisely. He's thought through every detail, calculated every angle. This isn't improvisation, this is engineering. Morrison sets down the mirror. The forward observer reports you detected German infantry approaching from your rear left sector while simultaneously engaging Panther tanks to your front, correct? Yes, sir. Standard doctrine says you should have withdrawn when the Panthers appeared, avoided engagement, called for tank destroyer support. Sir, if we'd withdrawn, the German infantry would have hit us during the maneuver. We'd have been destroyed. The mirrors let us detect the infantry ambush early enough to respond. So you violated doctrine because doctrine didn't account for the tactical situation. Yes, sir. Morrison is quiet for a long moment. Then, Sergeant Chen, you're Chinese American, correct? The question catches Danny off guard. Yes, sir. You understand there are officers in this division who question whether Chinese Americans have sufficient judgment for positions of responsibility. Danny's jaw tightens. I understand that, sir. Do you think your unauthorized modification helps or hurts that perception? The question is a trap. Danny sees it. If he defends the modification, he's insubordinate. If he apologizes, he's validating the prejudice. He chooses neither. Sir, I think results matter more than perceptions. 4 Panthers destroyed, 0 American casualties. If that's not sufficient judgment, I don't know what is. Morrison's expression doesn't change, but something shifts in his eyes. Respect, maybe. Your modification is still unauthorized. I'm issuing a formal reprimand. It goes in your file. Yes, sir. I'm also issuing you a Silver Star for gallantry in action. The engagement on March 7th demonstrated exceptional tactical awareness and initiative. Danny blinks. Sir, and I'm sending your mirror system to Ordnance Department with a recommendation for evaluation. If it's as effective as yesterday's action suggests, other tanks should have it. Sir, the Ordnance Department already rejected. They rejected a proposal from a sergeant. They might not reject one from a battalion commander. Morrison stands, extends his hand. Good work, Chen. Dangerous work. Undisciplined work. But good. Danny shakes his hand. Doesn't know what to say. One more thing, Morrison adds. Next time you want to modify army equipment, run it through channels first. Even if you think the answer will be no. Understood? Yes, sir. Danny leaves HQ with a formal reprimand and a Silver Star recommendation. The Army's ability to simultaneously punish and reward the same action is disorienting. But he understands the message. We need people like you, but we also need discipline. Try to balance both. He returns to calculus. The mirrors are being reinstalled. Battalion order. Morrison authorized it. Other tank commanders are watching, asking questions. Some are skeptical. Looks fragile. Adds complexity. What if it breaks in combat? One commander, Lieutenant James Hartley, skeptic, by-the-book officer, says, "This is a distraction. Focus on primary gunnery. You don't need gimmicks." Danny doesn't argue, just says, "I had 4 Panthers to my front and 6 infantry to my rear. Primary gunnery doesn't solve that problem. Vision does." Hartley doesn't have a response. By March 10th, 3 other tanks in the battalion have improvised versions of Danny's mirror system. Not exact copies. Each commander adapts it differently. But the concept spreads. Within a week, 15 tanks. Within 2 weeks, most of the battalion. The modifications are crude, inconsistent. Some work well, others break immediately. But the idea is loose now. Can't be contained, can't be unthought. Tank commanders are thinking about blind spots, about geometry, about extending vision beyond what the design provides, and some of them are staying alive because of it. May 1945. War's over. Germany's surrendered. Danny's back in a maintenance depot outside Frankfurt, processing his tank for return to the States. A civilian engineer arrives. Dr. Robert Pierce from Aberdeen Proving Ground, Ordnance Department Optical Systems Specialist. He's been sent to evaluate Danny's mirror modification. They stand in a warehouse looking at calculus. The mirrors are still mounted, worn now, wire fraying, but intact. Pierce examines them with a professional eye, takes measurements, asks detailed questions about installation, durability, field performance. Sergeant Chen, I've reviewed the tactical reports. Impressive results, but I have concerns about implementation. Sir? Your mirror system works because you understand optics. You calculated the angles correctly. You positioned the mirrors precisely. But most tank commanders don't have your background. If we standardize this modification, they'll implement it incorrectly. Wrong angles. Poor mounting. It could become a liability. Danny nods. He's seen this. 3 tanks in his battalion had mirror systems that failed. Wrong positioning, inadequate mounting. Crew couldn't interpret the images correctly. Pierce continues, however, your underlying concept is sound. Blind spot coverage is a legitimate tactical need. The M4A3E8's vision system has known limitations. Your modification addresses those limitations effectively, when implemented correctly. So what's the solution, sir? Factory installation. Engineered properly. Standardized mounts, pre-calibrated angles, maintenance procedures. We take your field expedient and turn it into a designed system. Will that happen? Pierce hesitates. For the M4, no. War's over. Sherman production is stopping. But for future tank designs? Absolutely. Your modification demonstrates that commanders need more than forward-facing vision. They need comprehensive situational awareness. We'll incorporate that into next-generation designs. So it's not wasted. Nothing learned is wasted, Sergeant. Pierce leaves. His report, filed in July 1945, recommends future armored vehicle designs should incorporate comprehensive vision systems covering all sectors, including traditionally blind spots. Field experience at Remagen demonstrates that improved situational awareness provides significant tactical advantage. The report influences the design of the M46 Patton tank, introduced in 1948, and the M47, and the M48. Each generation incorporates better vision systems, more periscopes, improved coverage of rear and side sectors. By the time the M60 enters service in 1960, blind spots are minimized, not eliminated. Geometry always creates limits, but reduced, managed, addressed in design rather than field modification. Danny's mirrors don't get the credit. The institutional memory is, we improved vision systems based on tactical experience, not a sergeant who wasn't supposed to modify his tank taught us that blind spots kill crews. But the effect is the same. Crews survive. Tanks fight better. The geometry is fixed, slowly, imperfectly, but fixed. And somewhere in Aberdeen's archives, there's a technical drawing labelled Chen Vision Enhancement System, Field Expedient, March 1945. 3 mirrors, copper wire, steel tubing. Nobody looks at it anymore, but it's there, preserved. Danny returns to San Francisco in October 1945. His father's shop on Grant Avenue survived the war. Business actually improved. Lots of military optics contracts. But his father is 70 now, tired, ready to retire. Danny takes over the shop, expands it. Specializes in precision optical equipment, surveying instruments, microscopes, telescope mirrors. The work is satisfying, quiet, nobody shooting at him. He marries Grace Wong in 1947. She's a nurse, veteran of the Army Nurse Corps, served in Europe same time Danny did. They understand each other's silences, the things you don't talk about from the war. They have 2 daughters, Susan, born 1949, Linda, born 1951. Danny teaches them optics the same way his father taught him. How light travels, how mirrors extend vision, how geometry creates both possibilities and limitations. Susan asks him once, age 12, why he's so obsessed with mirrors. They're just reflections, Dad. He's grinding a telescope mirror at the workshop bench, hands steady, eye checking the curvature against a test pattern. Mirrors let you see what you couldn't see otherwise. That's not just reflection, that's survival. She doesn't understand. How could she? She's never been in a place where the thing you can't see is the thing that kills you. But in 1967, Susan joins the Peace Corps, goes to Guatemala, writes home about rural health clinics with no diagnostic equipment. Danny sends her a care package. 3 dental mirrors he's modified, longer handles, better angles, improved lighting reflection. For seeing what the eye can't reach, the note says. She writes back, "Dad, these are perfect. The doctors here say they're better than the standard equipment. How did you know what we needed?" He doesn't answer directly. Just, same problem, different context. Vision matters everywhere. Danny doesn't talk about the war. Not to his family, not to other veterans. He attends 1/9th Armoured Division reunion in 1952. Feels out of place, doesn't go back. But he keeps a shoebox in his workshop. Inside, the Silver Star medal he never wears. The formal reprimand from Lieutenant Colonel Morrison. 3 photographs of Calculus, his tank, mirrors visible, taken by a Signal Corps photographer in March 1945. And a piece of copper wire, carefully coiled, labelled in his handwriting. Primary mirror mount, Stadtwald. 7th of March 45. His daughter Linda finds the box in 1968, age 17, curious. "Dad, what's this?" "Old stuff. From the war. You never talk about the war. Not much to say. Mum says you won a Silver Star. That's a big deal." Danny is calibrating a microscope. Doesn't look up. "Wasn't a big deal. Just did what made sense at the time." "What did you do?" He's quiet for a long moment. Then, "I saw things other people couldn't see. That's all." "How?" "Mirrors." Linda looks at the photographs, sees the strange contraption mounted on the tank turret. Wire and tubing and angled mirrors. "This looks crazy." It was, but it worked. "Did anyone else do this?" "Not before me. Some copied it after. Then the army made it official. Sort of." "So, you invented something?" "I solved a problem. That's not the same as inventing." But it is. Linda understands this even if her father doesn't. Solving a problem that everyone else accepted as unsolvable. That's invention. That's innovation. That's the difference between dying and surviving. She studies engineering at Berkeley. Graduates 1973. Specializes in optical systems for medical imaging. CT scanners. MRI machines. Equipment that lets doctors see inside the human body without cutting it open. When she defends her doctoral dissertation in 1979, she dedicates it to my father, who taught me that vision is the first step to survival. Danny attends the defense, sits in the back, says nothing, but his eyes are wet when she finishes. In 1994, the History Channel produces a documentary, Secret Weapons of WWII. One segment covers field modifications, unauthorized improvements soldiers made to equipment without official approval. They interviewed Danny. He's 73 now, still running the optical shop, though both daughters work there too. The camera crew sets up in the workshop, mirrors and lenses everywhere, light refracting through glass, the smell of optical polish. The interviewer asks, "Sergeant Chen, you modified your Sherman tank's vision system using salvaged mirrors. This was against regulations. Why did you do it?" Danny considers the question. Looks uncomfortable. Not used to cameras. Finally, because the regulations were written by people who weren't getting shot at from angles they couldn't see. I was, so I fixed the angles. Did you think you might face court-martial? Didn't think about it. Had other things to worry about, like not dying. Your modification was credited with destroying 4 Panther tanks in a single engagement. Do you feel proud of that? The question bothers him. Visible discomfort. No. I feel grateful I survived. The Germans in those Panthers, they were somebody's sons, somebody's fathers. I killed them because they were trying to kill me. That's not pride. That's just war. But your innovation saved American lives. Maybe. Maybe it just meant some other American got killed the next day instead of me. You can't know. You do what makes sense in the moment. You live with it after. The interview runs for 43 minutes. The documentary uses 90 seconds of it. The parts about the technical modification, the engagement on March 7th, the 4 Panthers destroyed. They don't use the part about pride, or the dead Germans, or the uncertainty about whether any of it mattered. Those parts don't fit the narrative. The narrative is, American ingenuity wins wars. Soldiers improvise solutions. Innovation triumphs. The reality is messier. Danny understands this. But you can't explain mess in 90 seconds of documentary footage. Modern tanks, M1 Abrams, Leopard 2, Challenger 2, have comprehensive vision systems. Cameras covering every angle, thermal imaging, night vision, 360-degree situational awareness displays that let commanders see everything around their vehicle simultaneously. No blind spots, or minimal ones. The geometry is solved. Tank crews using these systems don't know about Danny Chen. Don't know about improvised mirrors mounted with copper wire on a Sherman turret in 1945. Don't know that the reason they can see threats from every angle is because an optical engineer from San Francisco understood that doctrine was inadequate and geometry was fixable. That's appropriate. Legacy shouldn't require attribution. The point isn't who thought of it. The point is, it works. Crews survive. The problem is solved. But in the archives, Aberdeen Proving Ground, Army History Institute, National Archives, there are documents, technical reports, after-action reviews, Ordnance Department evaluations from 1945, and buried in those documents occasionally is a name, Sergeant Daniel Chen, 9th Armored Division, credited with Field Expedient Vision Enhancement System, noted for exceptional tactical initiative. The documents are digitized now, searchable, accessible to researchers, military historians, engineering students studying the evolution of armored vehicle design. Most people never see them, but they're there. Permanent record, evidence that someone saw the problem clearly, understood the geometry, and fixed it with available materials and mechanical intuition. That's the kind of legacy that matters. Not dramatic, not heroic, just functional, effective, real. Danny Chen dies in 2003. Heart failure. He's 82. Dies at home, in bed, Grace beside him. Peaceful, no drama. The optical shop closes. Susan and Linda are both established in their own careers. Susan in public health, Linda in medical imaging. Neither wants to run a retail business. They sell the equipment, lease the space to a restaurant, but they keep the workshop, the back room where their father taught them optics, where he ground lenses and calibrated instruments, and occasionally, late at night, worked on projects he never explained. Cleaning out the workshop, Linda finds something. In a locked cabinet, wrapped in oiled cloth, a mirror assembly. 3 mirrors mounted on articulated arms, positioned at precise angles. Hand-built, professional quality. Each mirror perfectly ground, silvered, polished. The mounting hardware is elegant, machined brass, stainless steel pivots, tension adjusters for maintaining alignment. There's a diagram with it, technical drawing on drafting paper, showing installation on a vehicle turret, angles calculated, optical paths traced, notes in Danny's handwriting, revised design, addresses field failure modes, improved mounting stability, reduced vibration sensitivity. Linda recognizes it immediately. It's her father's mirror system from the war, not the crude field expedient version he built in 1945. A refined version, engineered properly, designed with the benefit of hindsight and professional tools. He built this after the war, probably in the late 1940s or early 1950s. Built it to prove, to himself, to the army, that the concept was sound. That if he'd had proper materials and time, it could have been even better. There's no evidence he ever showed it to anyone. Never submitted it to the army, never tried to patent it or commercialize it, just built it, perfect, complete, and stored it in a locked cabinet where no one would see it. Susan and Linda debate what to do with it. Donate it to a museum. Most wouldn't understand its significance. Sell it? Feels wrong. Keep it. Linda takes it, mounts it in her office at the medical imaging lab where she works. Doesn't explain what it is to colleagues who ask. Just, my father's work, from a long time ago. But sometimes, late at night, working on designs for new imaging systems, equipment that lets doctors see inside tumors, watch blood flow through arteries, detect fractures invisible to X-rays, she looks at her father's mirror assembly and understands. Vision is survival. Whether you're a tank commander in 1945 or a radiologist in 2003, the tools change. The materials improve, the technology advances, but the fundamental problem remains. How do you see what's hidden? How do you extend perception beyond natural limits? How do you solve the geometry of the invisible? Her father answered those questions with mirrors and wire in a German forest. She answers them with computers and electromagnetic radiation in a California laboratory. Different era, different tools, same principle. The mirror assembly sits on her shelf. Polished brass gleaming, glass perfectly clear, angles precisely calculated. A monument to a moment when geometry mattered more than doctrine, and one man's understanding of light saved lives that would have been lost in darkness. No one visits it. No plaque explains it. It's just an optical assembly in a cluttered office, noticed by no one, significant to no one except the woman who inherited it. That's appropriate. The best solutions don't need audiences. They just need to work. Geometry is unforgiving. Even modern tanks with comprehensive vision systems have blind spots. Not many, not large, but present, always, because you can't see everywhere simultaneously, because cameras have fields of view, because sensors have limitations, because physics constrains what's possible. The problem Danny solved in 1945 isn't fully solved, can't be fully solved. You can only minimize it, manage it, accept that perfect vision is impossible and adequate vision is the best you'll achieve. Tank commanders today learn this in training. They learn to check their displays systematically, to scan sectors in sequence, to maintain awareness that somewhere, in some angle they're not currently observing, a threat might be present. They learn what Danny understood intuitively. The thing you can't see is the thing that kills you. But they don't learn his name. Don't learn about copper wire and mirror fragments mounted on a Sherman turret with hands that wouldn't stop shaking after the engagement ended. They learn the principle, not the person. That's how knowledge propagates. Slowly, impersonally, stripped of context and converted to doctrine. Somewhere in a training manual, there's probably a line about maintaining situational awareness and checking blind spots systematically. Danny would recognize the concept, wouldn't recognize the language. The manual doesn't say, a Chinese-American sergeant who wasn't supposed to modify his tank taught us this lesson by surviving when he shouldn't have. It just says, check your blind spots. Close enough. The result is the same. Crews survive because someone, somewhere, understood geometry and had the nerve to act on that understanding. Whether they get credit is irrelevant. Whether anyone remembers is irrelevant. The mirrors remain, in principle if not in fact. Extending vision, solving geometry, keeping people alive. That's legacy, not fame, not recognition, not attribution, just function. Silent, permanent, effective. Danny would have accepted that, might have preferred it. His mirrors don't reflect glory, they reflect angles. And in war, angles are everything.